All right. So, and if anybody's tuning in on Facebook Live with us, grab a pencil and a notebook. You guys too, make sure you have something to take notes on. Today is a big topic. All right. We're going to cover some really cool stuff. We're going to talk about the different parts of music that we study. There's three primary parts. All right. There's technique, there's theory, and then there's musicality. Now, some of you, we've been going over this in your classes because there's so much of this to do it all the time. And all of you study these parts of music. Now, these are my categories, all right? So if you go and you Google, what are the parts of learning music? You're gonna get some different answers. But when I teach music and when I think about and process music, I break it down into three categories. Technique, which is literally how to play the instrument that you're playing, whether it's guitar or piano or drums or the clarinet, whatever it is. It's how to do it, how to hold it, how to make sound with it, chords, whatever it is. The second part is music theory, which is how to read music, how to understand music, how to listen to music, how to appreciate music, things like that. And that would be, learning about quarter notes, half notes, whole notes, crescendo dynamics, things like that. That is the theory part. And the last part that is part of the music learning process is musicality. And musicality is a really broad category of ideas. Basically, musicality has to do with how you present music, how you're going to share it. And it's probably the hardest part to teach because it's very abstract and it's extremely subjective, okay? So one of the things that you guys did from last week was you went through and you found songs that you like and you figured out why you like them. That was part of the homework. And a lot of reasons that make a song interesting have to do with the musicality part. The way they do it, the way they sing it, the way they play it makes you feel relaxed, or maybe it makes you feel hyped up for a game you're about to play, or maybe it helps you focus, things like that. That's the musicality aspect of it. You can take that exact same song and present it in a different way, and it becomes an entirely different item. It's a totally different feel. It's a different vibe. It's a different concept altogether. So those are the three major parts of learning music and teaching music that I like to talk about. Technique, how to play your instrument. Theory, how to understand music. And musicality, how to present that music to somebody else. Before we get started talking about all of those different things and just giving examples of that, I want to ask you guys, and I want you to hold on to this thought, and I will give you a few minutes to think about it, because if you're anything like me, this is more of a challenging question than you might think it is. And Mr. James likes to ask this question to me every 4 months or so. Are you ready? What is music and what does it mean to you? What is music and what does it mean to you? Now, whenever somebody asks me this question, it takes me about 15 minutes to answer, and I don't always have a cohesive answer, and there's a lot of laughing and a lot of fun in the process of talking about it. But I want you guys to think about, what is music and what does it mean to you? Now, I have a very clinical approach to understanding music, because that's the way I was taught, but I have learned a lot in the last 3 or 4 years about what music is and what it means to me. So on a music theory side, here's the definition of what music is. And this was the very first answer that I gave when somebody asked me, what is music to you? The definition of what makes music music is the organization of sound in space. Okay? I want you to write that down. If you have a notepad with you, or if you're taking notes on your phone or your laptop or whatever, the definition of music, what classifies, what qualifies as music in the music community, is the organization of sound in space.
I'll be right back.
Okay, cool. We'll see you in just a second. So if we're organizing sound in space, that's a really fancy way of saying making noise outside of a vacuum. Okay, so we can't go to outer space and put our spacesuit on and hop out into space and bang some pots and pans together and call it music. Why? Because it's not in a space, it's in a vacuum and you can't hear it. If you take those same pots and pans and you go in your living room and you bang them together, this classifies as music. Why? Because it's intentional, which means it was organized, okay? So this is an extremely broad category, okay? It's extremely encompassing. And with this definition, pretty much anything can qualify as music. Now, I want to hear from you guys, and then I'm going to talk about my perspective of this a little bit. What is music to you? Let's start with that. What is music? Who wants to go first? All right, Jacob, let's start with you. And then is Samara over there too?
Yes, she is.
I totally skipped you earlier. Did you do the homework from last week?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, do it for
Okay, so music to me is a way to express yourself and feelings.
Mr. James likes that one. That's a good one. So music to you is a way to express yourself and to share your feelings, okay? Caleb, how about for you? What is music?
Music to me is
Now, while you think about that, I know it's a big question, and you're putting your thoughts together. I can see the gears turning. There's no wrong answer. There's no right answer. There's only your answer. This is one of those things extremely subjective, and it's abstract, and it's specific to you, okay? So if you have a thought and you're like, I'm not sure it's right, I don't know if that's it, it doesn't matter. This is just whatever music is to you. I want to hear about it. While you think about that, Samara, what is music to you?
music to me is like sound and
I'll let you.
and
It's a big question.
feel like
All right, let's go back to Caleb real quick. Mr. Caleb.
music to me makes me like feel a certain way.
So, and that's a good point. Jacob was saying it's a great way to express yourself. Caleb is saying it's a good way to be a receptor of emotions or thoughts or ideas and concepts. And he's absolutely right. Zoe, what is music to you?
It's a way to soothe myself.
Okay, it's a way to soothe yourself. That's good. I like it. Amanda, what is music to you?
I asked Amanda, and she told me, she said music is beautiful, and she said it's interesting to learn.
Okay, so music is beauty. Music is art, right? I don't have much appreciation for paintings and stuff. I think they look cool, but I don't know enough about it to look at it and go, wow, that's really meaningful to me. That's really valuable. But I can look at it and I can go, that's pretty. That's an art. And if that's what music is to you, that's okay. Everybody's at a different stage of their stuff. And that's a really great answer, especially when we're just enjoying music. Music is beautiful. Music is cool, and I like to learn it. That's great. That's a good thing. Mr. James, you don't get off free for this one. What is music to you?
Okay, so I'm going to keep this brief. I love this question, as Mr. Alex said, and I like to ask it just because for me, if you're doing any kind of music, if you can't answer this one, then you will be confused in your direction and where you're going. And I love what Jacob said at the beginning. It's just the expression of emotion and the statement of the organization of sound inside of space. You always have to come back to what are you organizing and what is the sound directed towards. And so for me, and as Alex said, this answer evolves and changes, and that's what's so cool about it. You don't have to have a patented answer for this, but I always come back to the idea that music is a universal language. And one of the reasons it makes it universal is that if you play a happy song, everybody knows that it's happy. If you play a sad song, everybody knows that it's sad. And music is the catalyst to express emotion, thoughts, and ideas in a way that is universally heard. And so music is a catalyst or a universal language to express your emotions. And I love that concept. And it's really one of the most unique things on the planet that can drive us in that direction without ever having to understand somebody's language, without ever having to understand somebody's backstory or anything. And it's one of the cool things. And I think that when we get a hold of that, and we can do that when we start to look for music for ourselves, we start to ask that question a little bit deeper of like, what's the catalyst that I want from this? And it helps us capitalize on why we're starting in our musical journey and where we want to go with it. So anyway, again, I can't ever make this answer. I can go for like 30 minutes on what this is, but simplify, it is the expression of emotion.
And if anybody doubts that, I can attest. He can spend a great deal of time talking about what music is, and it's all good stuff. We should do an entire class just of Mr. James' perspectives on what music is, because it's really, really good stuff. But we don't have time for it right this second. So we're going to go on. There was a second part to that question, is what does music mean to you? And most of you tied your answer into that. What does music mean? It's a way, it's a means of expression. It's a means of reception. And I kind of balance between Mr. James and what Caleb says, which is where it's a way to share things, but it's also a way to receive things. And I usually find myself on the receiving end of music. I like to find music that I relate to. I don't always like to make music that expresses me already. So I do that. I'll sit down, I'll play my piano, and I'll make up some stuff, or I'll grab my guitar and I'll play some stuff, and I'll try to be creative and make something. But more often than not, I find myself looking for other people's music that expresses what I feel. But it's the same concept. It's an expression, and it's a reception of feelings, of an idea. So let's take all of that. I want you to hold on to that thought. All of that ties into the musicality aspect, how you express it, okay? And we're going to come back to that. We're going to go full circle. But first we have to talk about technique, all right? And all of you guys, if you've studied with any of the teachers here, you're familiar with this book. If you do piano and you study with any of the teachers here, you've at least seen this book. If you haven't worked out of this book, you've seen this book. This is not how you spell technique. They did this just to be goofy, I guess. But technique is the science, the art of physically, literally playing your instrument, regardless of what you're playing, what kind of song, what kind of music. Technique is the science and the art of playing on your instrument. So some examples of technique for piano. I'm going to give a couple, and then I want to hear from you guys some examples of technique. So basic technique ideas. Your scales. Scales are a fundamental, foundational technique to teach you how to play piano. Now, there's lots of different ways to do scales, and the way I like to do scales, we have what we call the grand form of scales. Also ties into the theory and the musicality. So I'll get to that in a little bit, because I love that as an exercise. But scales are a foundational technique exercise to teach you how to play piano. All right, another one, if you guys have been doing piano for any length of time, you're probably familiar with the Hanon exercises, which is another fantastic book. You've probably seen it around the studio. I almost always have one on my person, especially when I'm working, when I'm teaching, but I almost always have one in my car anyways, because if somebody has a question, more likely than not, the answer's in that book somewhere about how to play music. So I love that book. Those are two examples of technique. Now, what I want from you guys is a specific example of a technique for your instrument, okay? And answering this question is going to get you a point for this class. So I'm going to start with Amanda. We're going to talk to Amanda, and I want you to just answer the question: what is a specific skill that you've learned that you need to play the piano?
Specific Yeah, so she learned how to identify her fingers by numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and their positions on the keyboard.
There you go.
Right. The middle C is the thumb 1 a lot of times. They're starting lots of times.
Where you put your hands is a crucial technique for playing music. When it comes to the guitar, when we're talking about the violin, the piano, whatever it is, where you put your hands, how you set your hands up is a crucial technique. Let's go to Zoe. What's a specific technique that you've learned for playing piano, right? That's your instrument?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What's a specific technique that you've learned?
Thirds, fourths, and fifths.
Thirds, fourths, and fifths, and what they mean. So that ties a little bit into the theory side of music too, what a third is, what a fourth is, what a fifth is, but also it's important to understand the technique of how to play it on the piano, because those intervals, those specific intervals are really crucial to creating harmonies. And so knowing and being really well versed in how to play those is going to be extremely important in your musical journey. For all instruments, those are really important, but especially for the piano. All right, it is time for the Reed family. Caleb, what is a specific technique that you've learned for playing any instrument that you've worked on?
Yeah, you have to have good posture when you're playing piano.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's back to basics. I love to say the basics are the most important part. If you don't have good posture, you won't be able to sit at the piano for very long. Your back's going to start to hurt. Your shoulders are going to hurt. Bad posture leads to a lot of problems too. So if you have poor posture, it's going to make it really difficult to play your instrument. Really good one. Samara, what is a specific technique for singing?
Breathing through your diaphragm.
Hey, that's a great one. And that's probably, arguably, one of the first most vital things that you can do when you're learning to sing is making sure that you can breathe correctly. Because if you can't breathe correctly and you're running out of breath, or you don't have enough breath, or you can't support the sound, it's going to make singing really difficult. So one of the first things that, and absolutely for my classes, and I think for most of our vocal teachers, one of the first things we discuss is how to breathe correctly. And that is a technique that you will spend a lifetime developing. You will never be done with your breathing. Okay, Jacob, specific technique.
Hammer-ons and pull-offs.
Hammer-ons and pull-offs, a really integral part of making your guitar playing more complex, more interesting. Very good. Okay, so that is the technique aspect of music, how to play your instrument. Not what to play or what song to work on, just how to do it, right? If you understand the theory part, right? If you play, let's say, the guitar, right? And you spend your entire life playing the guitar and you know guitar technique and you know the music that goes along with it, does that make you a pianist? The answer is no, because you don't have the technique. Are you a musician? Absolutely. A pianist? No, you have to have the technique for that instrument in order to consider yourself a practitioner of that instrument. A practitioner of music in general? Absolutely. That would always apply. So now we move on to the theory part, the theory portion. Now, theory is one of my favorite things because you can sit and talk about it and you can argue about it endlessly for like ever. And I like to argue with people in a fun and constructive way. Fun and constructive way. It's not really an argument, it's more of a debate at that point. But learning things like what are chords, right? Because chords are a universal music concept. They don't apply to just the piano or the guitar. They are a harmonic structure. And they are a theoretical concept of creating harmony, right? So chords, understanding chords, thirds, fourths, fifths, seconds, things like that, understanding what they are and how they work. Rules of melody, which is something that we've talked about, right? Using stepwise motion. That was in our last class. What chords you can and cannot use in a specific order. All of those are theoretical components of learning music. So now I want to hear from you guys again, round 2. What are some specific theoretical tools, concepts, or knowledge, skill sets that you have learned for music? Now remember, these are not necessarily instrument specific. So if you have one and you're like, oh, that's not for piano, that's okay. I still want to hear it. All right, so let's start with, let's go to Zoe. What is a theoretical concept that you've studied and you've learned?
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay, we'll come back to you. Don't worry. Amanda, any theoretical concepts that you've learned? Any brain knowledge that you've acquired for how to play an instrument and what music is?
Fourth.
Did she say chords?
Fourth. Last time we did the first. We did the fourth last week, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That counts. Very good. Let's head over to Samara.
I coached her. I was thinking fourth.
Samara, what's the theoretical concepts you've learned? I'll let you think about it. Caleb, theory concept.
With
Think about that one too. Jacob, theory concept.
Staying within the key signature.
Staying within a key signature. You leave a key signature, you run into a lot of problems. And it's a puzzle, right? Music is a puzzle. You're totally allowed to leave your key signature. But if you get stuck there, you've created a puzzle, a problem. You're going to have to unwind it. Back to Samara. Any ideas? Any theory concepts that you've learned? Ever in your singing classes, do you ever use the do re mi system, the solfeggio system?
yeah.
Is that a theory or a technique concept?
Theory.
Theory concept. Yes, we have what we call fixed do and movable do, or fixed and movable solfeggio. And it's a way to describe to somebody what a pitch is without needing an instrument. Solfeggio is a theoretical concept, not a technical tool. It's a tool used for technique, but it's a theoretical concept. All right, Caleb. Theoretical concept.
Playing with like using scales.
Using scales. Okay, yes, and we talked about how we can tie these together. Scales are a theoretical concept as well as a technique concept because they give you an idea of key signature. Scale and key signature go hand in hand, and you need them to work together. Okay, we have some basic technique, and we have some theoretical skills. Reading music is a theoretical skill. Reading guitar tabs, ukulele tabs, chord charts, those are theoretical skills, right? They also apply to your technique, but they are largely theoretical skills. Now, when it comes to all of these, I want you to think about these pieces as, does everybody play Jenga? Everybody knows what Jenga is, yeah? It's the block stacking game, and you've got to take the blocks out and not knock the tower over, right? Music works a lot like Jenga, all right? You can take pieces out and discard them or stack them on top or however you play, and it will still be music. And you can take a bunch of things out and change it and move it around, and it's still music. But at some point, it becomes too top heavy and falls over. Now, it's still music, but maybe you ran into a problem, and that's where you have your theoretical skills to help you out. Okay, now the last part, musicality. What makes music interesting and different and diverse, okay? Here's a quick and an easy example, all right? Now, if you guys have been following along in my piano class, we've been learning Fly Me to the Moon, right? Wait for my keyboard here. Okay, That's the first part, part one. Let me play it again. Specific notes in a specific order. That requires use of technique and of theory. I have to know what I'm doing and how to execute it. Now, here comes the musicality. I'm going to play the exact same notes, but I'm going to change a couple of musicality items. Maybe the tempo at which I play it, maybe the volume at which I play it, things like that. And it's going to change the way it sounds. When I do it this way, sounds fun, it sounds happy, it's cool, I like it. If I do it this way, now I'm not going to change any of the notes. Not going to change any of the notes. It has a very different mood, just right there. Same notes. Different kind of feeling. Okay, this is the musicality part. Now, it's a triangle. It's a tower. You need the technique and you need the theory to make the musicality work. But the musicality is what makes it interesting. Okay, the musicality is the independent style or flavor or whatever you want to call it, zest to a particular song, and it can be anything. There's infinite layers of musicality. Does everybody know who John Cage is? Musician, composer, long time ago, probably not. He wrote a song, I think it's called 422. I think that's what it's called. It's 4 minutes and 22 seconds of silence. Absolute silence. I want you guys to look it up. John Cage, 422. I think that's what it's called. Let me double check that real quick because I don't want to send you in the wrong direction. John Cage. It's 433. I got the wrong number. 433. It's 4 minutes and 33 seconds of someone sitting at a piano on a stage, turning pages in a music book, and looking at it and reading it, and he'll reach up and he'll turn another blank page and he'll look at it and he'll nod and he'll wait. He'll turn another page. It's really cool. I want you guys to look at it this week. In fact, I'm going to show you a little clip of it for today. We're not going to watch the whole thing because I don't want to eat up all of your time doing that. But here is 433 by John Cage. Boom. Oh, Mr. James, can you turn on sharing for me real quick?
Sorry, 2 seconds. That work?
There you go. Okay. All right. So I'm going to fast forward to the middle of this once he begins, okay? So here he goes. He's getting started. So fun to perform with that forward. Isn't it so much fun? Okay, so I want you guys to think about this. Based on all of the things that we've talked about and what music is and the definition of music, what is that music? Mr. James, what do you think?
That was panic for a college project right there. I need you to write a 4.5 minute piece of something brilliant. That's what I would do. You can't see the artisticness? No. I think it is a very cool expression um, of doing something completely different, where having complete silence is a projection of a specific emotion, of just being at peace, complete peace. And sometimes, you know, what's the term for me? Silence is golden.
There you go. I like it. Silence is golden. Now, this was a thought and a psychological experiment, as well as an expression of music that pushes the boundaries of what the ideas of music were, are, can be, was. So this was a project by John Cage. That was the idea was to turn the tables on the performance, right? When you go and you watch a concert, you want to sit and listen, and you're generally quiet, right? Well, what happens when you're 3 minutes into a song and there's been music in it? How do people respond? How do people react to that? This was a psychological crowd experiment as well as a musical experiment. So I want you guys to check it out, do some reading on it. I want you to look into John Cage. Super cool guy. He wrote a lot of really interesting things that really push the boundaries of what music is. Now, all of that is well and good, but was there a lot of musicality present? Well, it depends on what your expression is. If your expression is silence, this was a beautiful, 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 beautiful expression of silence. If this was an expression of patience, this is a trying example of patience for me. It's hard to sit there and watch it. So for a 4-minute and 33-second piece of no music, no notes being played, it has musicality. Super cool. So I want you guys in your homework this week, your assignment this week, we talked about what makes music interesting to you. I want you to delve a little bit farther into the musicality aspect of it. Now, I know that was not a super lively example of what musicality is, but musicality is simple. It conveys a concept. It conveys an idea. Does music make you feel happy? Then their musicality was geared towards happy. Does music make you feel sad or relaxed, patient, calm, quiet? That's what the musicality is geared towards. Does it make you feel nothing? Does it convey no idea to you? What was the musicality? So I want you to take a look into the music that you guys like, the music that you guys enjoy throughout the week. And I want you to ask yourself more about the musicality side, right? We talked about what is music to you. That's generally influenced by the level of musicality, right? So in my early days of music, I defined music by technique, and then I defined music by theory, and I finally went on to define music by musicality, the way that we express music, the way that we talk about and share music. Now, final question for you guys for the day, and then I will let you go. I know this has been a long running class with a lot of hopefully thought-provoking ideas for you. What are some other ways that you can express yourself, either with music or something else, right? I talked about painting. Painting doesn't cut it for me. It doesn't, I don't know how to appreciate art in that sense. But what are some things that you guys can think of that's another way to express your thoughts, your emotions, ideas, and concepts? Who wants to go first? Jacob, thank you for volunteering.
You can express your emotions and ideas through sport.
Sure. Sports?
Yep.
Yes. You can. Can you give us an example of what that would look like? Or to you, what that would look like?
Well, I mean, because I play basketball, like, doing, like, I guess what you love, which is me playing basketball, and using all, or like doing all the unique aspects to it, so like dribbling, shooting.
Okay. So you can use sports to convey a skill, is I think what you're leaning towards. You can use sports to convey concepts of teamwork, hard work, discipline, diligence, patience, pain, experience. variety. There's lots of things that you can express through sports. Let's go to Zoe. What are some other things, other ways that you can express your emotions, thoughts, ideas?
I think painting expresses my feelings.
Very cool. The next time that I sub for you, I want to talk to you about painting. I want you to tell me some basic concepts about it so that way I can maybe understand it a little bit better. Because I've been trying. My wife loves to paint. She paints all sorts of really beautiful things. And I think, oh, that looks really nice. And I tell her that looks really nice. And then she starts to tell me about what it means, and I get lost. I get really lost. So we're going to have a conversation about painting. Let's go back to Samara. What are some other ways to express yourself?
The drawing.
I'll let you think. You never breathe. Caleb, some ways to express yourself.
Yeah, I can express myself through like creativity or like
Being
drawing.
creative. Yeah, drawing.
Creative.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Art, creativity, and expression are things that a lot of times go together, right? Amanda, how can you express yourself? How can you share your ideas? Did we lose them? I think we lost them.
I know I think she's a little confused now, but she answered, she loves to paint, draw, and color, all of those sorts of things.
Drawing, color, painting, yes. So there's lots of ways. Writing, right? Poets, novelists, they write. And that's a really straightforward way to communicate ideas, but you can still do it artistically. You can still do it artfully, right? Science is a great way to express yourself, especially when you like to prove things, when you like to show how things work together. Dancing, interpretive dance, modern dance, jazz, all of that is a way to express an idea. Lots of thoughts and emotions. So what I want you guys to do for this week is I want you to take the songs that you like, that you enjoyed listening to, and I want you to break it down another step, and I want you to look at the parts of musicality that you can find in it. Does it go faster, slower? Does it get softer, louder? Is there an emotion behind the musician, the vocalist? Are they sharing an idea? Or are they just playing music? Now, this is called programming. When we insert an idea or a specific concept into music, we call it programming, and that goes back to the 18th century idea, and we'll talk about that at some point. But this is all very common in music today. It didn't used to be this way. Music used to be a technical expression. That was it. And then eventually it evolved into also an emotional expression. And we need to talk about that. We'll have a discussion about that, but we're out of time for today. So that's your homework this week. Break down your favorite songs. Find the aspects of musicality in it that make it interesting to you. And it doesn't have to be your favorite songs. Whoops. You can take a random song and break down the musicality and come back and tell me about it next week, okay? That is your homework. Let's open it up to you guys for questions, comments, thoughts. I want to hear from you. I want some feedback.